This is Amplify You, the podcast about you discovering your message and broadcasting it to the world. If you're a coach, author, or speaker, you'll want to tune in. If you're looking for the best return on your time investment to get your message out to the world in a bigger way, we're giving you full access and behind the scenes look of how we're running our podcast, how our clients have found success, and what you can do to launch your podcast today. The world needs your message. I'm Michelle Abraham, the host. Join my family as we unleash your unique genius and find the connections you need to launch your adventure today. Join us and let's get amplified. Hello, Amplify You family. Michelle Abraham, your host here today. I am bringing you an awesome behind the mic interview today with Darryll Stinson. So Darryll is the podcast host of Second Chance Athletes. He's also a former Division I athlete himself. He's an author and a 2-time TEDx speaker, the founder of Second Chance Athletes. And after going from suicidal to success, Darryll uses his experience to give hope to the hopeless and to help heart-centered speakers like yourselves build innovative six-figure speaking careers and align with their highest purpose. That's right up our alley here on this show. So Darryll is the author of the best-selling book, Who Am I After Sports? An Athlete's Roadmap to Discover New Purpose and Live Life Fulfilled. When he's not working, Darryll enjoys spending time with his wife and his 3 daughters. Oh my gosh, girl dad. Welcome, Darryll, to the show.
Welcome. And thank you for having me. I'm really excited to dive into this discussion. I pray, trust, and hope that our listeners are going to take great value away from this. So thank you so much for all that you do.
Oh, you're welcome. And thanks for being here with us today. So let's first talk about your podcast, which I think, and we've chatted about your podcast. It's kind of like evolving and has evolved. So what made you want to start a podcast in the first place?
Well, I had someone pitch to me. So I was always on people's podcasts and things as a speaker. And, they're always trying to get you to start their own podcast. And I would just say, no. I don't want to be a content contributor. I don't want to deal with the back end. I just want to come and share. It's just less stressful. And one of the coaches, her name is, oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank. She has the Hero podcast, Veronica Abrams. She said, well, why don't you just consider it like a learning experiment, right? And just do it for the learning and not necessarily for anything else. And I was like, that's a good point. So she convinced me. I tried it and I fell in love with it.
Cool.
And my biggest regret is that I didn't start sooner.
Mine too. I know. I wish I'd started so many years ago.
Yeah.
So much fun. A lot of our clients say it's like one of their most favorite things they do in their business.
Yes. And I'm to the point now where I need to chill out. Because I'll do 6 episodes a week, sometimes 7 episodes a week, because I do this. This is what I do. I connect with people.
Yeah.
And podcasts, this is a great way. So I'm like, you got to come on my podcast. And it's just because we're going to have the conversation anyways. And the best way to really connect and learn from someone is by hearing their story and learning from their expertise.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you and I are very similar where I was like, come on my podcast. And I just told you how far in advance we are in recording right now. So,
yeah, I get it.
Same with you. I just love having people on the show, finding out about their stories. So I like you, might also love having just getting to meet other people and learning. And I use my podcast to learn all sorts of things from the experts. And it's been great. So tell us a little bit about your speaking career before you became a podcast host. What were you speaking on and how were you getting so many bookings everywhere?
Yeah, it's funny because I hated public speaking. I was the guy that when they would do icebreakers, I would leave the room and pretend I was going to the bathroom so that they wouldn't call on me and I wouldn't have to speak in front of people. And I was a successful marketing professional for a university, that my alma mater, Central Michigan University. And we won some higher education awards. And one of my interns had graduated and her aunt that worked for DDS was having this conference at a Soaring Eagle casino that was, only 5 minutes from the university. And so she said, hey, would you be willing to come talk about marketing? And I was like, sure. And then we talked and he's like, well, how much do you charge? I was like, $500. She was like, Yeah. I was like, no, wait, like you should have charged more.
I mean, it's 5,000.
I know, right? I meant 10, whatever. And so I go into the Sornigo room and there's 24 people in there. So it's like, okay, this is not intimidating or anything like that. And I do this talk, which I still do today, called the 4 C's of effective marketing. Mm-hmm. And I talk about how do you capture attention, connect with your audience, communicate key points, and call to action. And I knocked it out of the park. And what I did not know is that all 24 of those people were heads of departments and organizations. So we're talking Blue Cross Blue Shield. We're talking, American Eagle. I mean, there was a bunch of like large corporation department heads in there, and they all had conferences and they all need continuing education credits. And so I just got on this circuit. They were like, do you do 1-day workshops? I was like, yep. Do you do week-long I just said, yeah. I just said yeah to everything, and I just figured it out. And that was the beginning of my speaking career, being a marketing consultant.
Amazing. Did you also incorporate your like personal story about being an athlete into any of that, or no?
Not really. It was funny. I just kind of talked about marketing and my passion for it. One of the things I was really passionate about was helping underdogs win, because I feel like the only reason why some big corporations who don't have as good of motives or core values, I'm not saying that all big corporations are like that, but there are some that are excelling and they're profitable and they've got more audience attention and control, when I believe that mission-centered, heart-centered entrepreneurs and corporations should have that attention and control, because that's how more good happens in the world. And so I was passionate about teaching the underdogs the marketing principles so that they can, outperform some of the larger companies.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's cool. And that's quite a unique like niche too in marketing, helping the underdogs, because usually in marketing, everyone's like helping the big guys. That's awesome. Very cool. And so then when did you decide that like your personal story is ready to come out?
Yeah, so I had been telling my personal story, like kind of in the background here and there, some youth conferences and things like that. But it honestly wasn't until 2017, where I moved from Michigan to Metro Atlanta and I started Second Chance Athletes, that two things happened. I started to tell my story of, my athlete transition a little bit more. And then at my church, we started an addiction recovery ministry, and I'm listening to them talk about their stories. And I was like, I think I was an addict. This sounds like me, back in the day. And so I was like, man, I can really help them. Like I was struggling with that same thing. I overcame it. And so they still identified as an addict. I did not, but I saw that I had similar struggles. So I was like, I got to be more transparent about my mental health, my battle with addiction, about my depression that came after athletic transition. And that's where I got really heavy on the personal story side of things. And it just caught like wildfire.
Wow. And how did you get the courage to start sharing that?
Well, it actually happened prior. No, I would say I tell this story because I was still struggling a little bit with speaking insecurity. When it came to my personal story, I could talk marketing all day because it was kind of like it, and it wasn't me.
Right.
But I remember speaking at a youth conference, and it was a sports camp in the middle of the summer, and it's about an hour or two west of where I live here in Georgia. And I was telling my story, and honestly, it wasn't that great of a talk, because when you don't have internal confidence, that comes out the way you speak. And so it was kind of like shaky, forgetting my points, things like that. It wasn't the best speech. And there was a line about 20 kids standing, waiting to come shake my hand. And, towards the end of the line, actually, the last person in line was this girl. She's 14 years old. She's literally bawling. And she comes up to me and she says, "Hey, sir." She says, my parents dropped me off at an orphanage last year and just never came back. And she said, I couldn't understand what was so wrong with me that they no longer wanted me. And so I figured that I deserved to be in pain because they left me there. And she pulls up this rubber wristband on her left arm, and she shows me these cuts on her wrist. And she said, there's something about hearing your story as a former successful athlete and your vulnerability that gave me the strength to come out about my struggle with depression and suicide thoughts. And you're the first person that I I'm telling. I gave her the like one arm dad hug, and I was just bawling, and I just affirmed her and told her she's worthy. She matters. She's not what her parents think about her. You know, she's talented. And the beauty of this story is that one of the camp staff members had actually, she's from Honduras, and she had been through 12 or 14 different orphanages.
Wow.
And so she was able to just really go, like she was talking with this young lady for hours and really counseling her through the process. And so that was the moment that I was like, if I focus more on being helpful than being impressive, I can be vulnerable about my story.
Wow. And the impact. Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Now, I'm sure you've had other stories like that 14-year-old girl now since then, since you've been sharing that story. And, you know, it's one of those things that we always, say to our podcasters, like, you're making an impact, whether you know it or not. It's just that one person that needed to hear what you have to say, your story. And because you had the courage to do it, you've totally changed her life, right? With that one person. It's really amazing.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's overwhelming. I probably get about 2 or 3 messages a day of someone from across the world now who are reaching out. And the crazy thing, it's some really high level people sometimes. And it always fascinates me because I'm like, how can you have 300,000 followers on Instagram and have all these titles and all this network, but for some reason, because you watch my TEDx talk or saw a video I made or heard me on a podcast, you feel like I'm the only one who you can be transparent with. Like, there's a problem in our world if that's the case.
Wow.
So yeah, we have to normalize this conversation. And thank you for allowing me to do that on your podcast.
Absolutely. And you have, so now on your podcast, you are now you're interviewing other athletes who have also had been athletes, and now they've moved on to a second career. Is that the second chance?
Yeah. So the second chance is because when I graduated with the right degree, but I didn't have the adequate experience because I was an athlete and I knew how to cheat and I knew how to persuade the teachers. You know, I had a good lie for everything.
On the team, right? Yeah.
And so I did graduate like a 3.1, but I didn't learn how to do anything in college. Yeah. So I was really behind professionally. And so because I worked for university, I had the opportunity to take classes for free. All I had to do was pay taxes. And so I actually went back and retook undergraduate courses. And that gave me the experience I needed to be a successful professional. And so the name Second Chance Athletes came from giving people a second chance to succeed in life without the demands of sports, because that's what I felt like I was given, and it was a way I wanted to give back. The podcast is called Second Chance Live, and the reason why it's called that is because second chance is something a lot of people can connect to. So it's not just former athletes, although we tend to tell plenty of those stories. It's anyone who has had a failure, made mistakes in life. I believe that no matter how many mistakes you made, no matter how much you messed up, no matter how bad your life may seem, that life has a way of awarding us second chances, and second chances exist so that we can finish strong. And so it's all about how we master our second chance moments in life so we can finish strong.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's so powerful. And so what's been your favorite episode that you've recorded so far?
Oh my gosh. So I actually have one, this is not fair, but just recently, and I've done close to 100 now. Just recently, I had an interview with a guy named Josh Corporal. He is like a digital nomad. He has this like men's technology accountability group that he runs, and he lives on this boat in the like Key West, Florida, and he just lives this like perfect his interview is actually on the beach. You could hear the seagulls in the background just and oh my gosh, he used his prior to the work he does now, he used to be engineer, and his job was to take these crazy visions that Disney and Circus de Lay and all of these like performers would take their vision and bring it to life. So literally they would come to him and be like, hey, we want Beyonce to jump off of a trampoline into a dragon's mouth and come swinging and pull her up and then walk on the crowd. Like, that's what we want. Figure it out.
Wow.
And I know. And
no pressure.
And so I when we got into that part of his stories, like, so I started asking about Circus du Soleil and Disney and all these things he had to do, and it was so fascinating. It captivated me because it was so much creativity in that episode that I was like, man, everyone needs to hear this. And then he went from that, which is a really good paying job, you can imagine, to the life he's living now. And so he had that shift that I was like, man, well, why did you leave it? And then how were you able to build something successful? And so it was just really rich.
That's so cool. I love it. That's great that you have a favorite one. Sometimes I ask that question, people are like, oh my gosh, I don't know.
Sorry for all of my previous guests, but his life was the most interesting.
That one was amazing. Yeah. Life living on the boat would be awesome. That's really cool. And so now your podcast is kind of taking some evolution or like about to go on an evolution. So tell us a little bit about that. What's up for 2021?
So here's what happened. And this might violate a little principles that, people say you need to niche down. I agree. Second Chance Athletes is very niche to work with high athletic identity athletes as a service. Okay. The podcast is niche, Second Chance Stories. Okay. But Darryll Stinson cannot fit in that box. I was having twins. I was birthing a personal brand with marketing, mental health, and motivation as a speaking and helping people build speaker businesses. And then I had this heart passion with Second Chance Athletes, where we give Second Chance Athletes, where we get athletes a second chance to succeed in life without the demands of sports. And the twins were fighting. I didn't know whether to sign the email as us or me. And so I had to create a Chinese wall in between it. And so I launched my own podcast called When I Said Yes, based upon my yes moment that I had in the psychiatric unit when I said yes to my future, my faith, and everything changed. And I was simplifying success to helping people find their next yes. Okay. Because I believe that success is less about all the tasks that you need to do, and it's more about the decisions that you need to make. Specifically, the yes decision. The yes decision, the book that you were supposed to write, the podcast you were supposed to start. That was your yes decision. And so I was telling that, but I got tired of saying yes moments, and being the yes man. And so I decided that I was going to rebrand that podcast to be the Darryll Stinson Show, where we talk about mental health, marketing, and motivation, and whatever else I want to talk about.
Whatever you feel like.
It's my show.
Yes. Love it. Yeah, that will draw a crowd anyway. So I think that's great. And it's funny, I have a mentality as well. Mine's yes to adventure.
Yes, I love that. I love that. And it's funny because we are so conditioned to say no. We are so conditioned to see what we don't have. We are so conditioned to see what we lack that we don't understand that clarity comes in doing. Provision comes when you decide to take a step of faith. And so just say yes and figure it out. Figure it out.
I love it. And just saying yes to even doing a podcast, over time, that story evolves, your voice gets stronger, your message gets stronger, and there's a natural evolution that happens. So I love that you've chosen the path of having your own show without any worry of any typical marketing strategies or whatever. I think that's great because we need more of that original content that's not just in the box that everyone else is doing. So I think that's actually what the recipe for a really successful podcast.
Yes, because you understand this and you're much, much better at this than I am of helping people find their niche and their podcast and all that. But it when it resonates with you, it's where the place where you can be the most authentic is going to be the place where you are the most powerful.
Yeah, and the most helpful.
And so that authenticity was very important to me. And the most helpful, absolutely. That's what I mean by power. Power is the ability to help others. And so, yes, I now I know that there's no resistance because I don't feel constrained in the box, and I feel like I can add more value to others.
Love it. Love it. Love it. So let's flip on your expert hat for a second about helping people with building six-figure speaking careers. So I'd love to just, ask you a couple of questions about that and how, what was a couple of strategies that you use? A lot of our audience are entrepreneurs. They want to start using their voice to have a big message to get out there. I know live events are kind of on hold at the moment for the most part, but how did you go about building a six-figure speaking career?
Oh my gosh. So I was rare in the fact that I never had to pitch myself until the pandemic, right? I've done some pitching lately, but once I got on that marketing circuit, I already had referral. And really getting that first speaking engagement is what sets a lot of people on fire. Sometimes it's hard to crack into an industry. And some people set themselves up for failure because they charge too low early on. And then now everyone's used to that price. So it's harder for them to raise prices. But anyways, I was very fortunate in that regard. Now, one thing I did that many people avoid in the beginning is I invested in myself. So I bought Eric Thomas's program. I bought, what's his name? Pete Vargas's Stage to Scale program. I bought Grant Baldwin's program. I bought Michael Port's program. I bought David Meltzer's program. So I was mentored by everybody because I was like, this is what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. This is a worthy investment. And now I'm a part of Les Brown's program. So I'm continually to invest myself because they say that you're never too old to learn and you're never too young to teach. So I invested in myself, and I think that's what set me apart. That's what helped me to land TEDx talk early. That's what helped me to land my second TEDx talk. That's what helped me get referrals and pay to speak. And so there's the art side of speaking, telling fascinating stories, helping compel people to want to actually take action so you can see life transformation and value to the company or the audience. And then there's the business side of speaking. This is the contracts. This is the courses. This is building out the streams of revenue. And this is how do you create innovative. So some people just want to charge large keynote fees. And I'm like, sure, you can charge that, but there's so many ways to monetize as a speaker. So let's build out an innovation strategy. One of my clients, she makes more of her money off of apparel sales than she does off of her speaking.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'll be quiet.
No, I love it.
I literally can talk about this all day. When it comes to speaking, I'm really passionate about it. Yeah. Because here's the thing. We tend to underestimate the power of our story. We do. We just, it's not like Darryl's story and trying to commit suicide a couple of times. It's not this big, I was homeless to millionaire story. Like there's nothing special about my story, to which I reply, that is an absolute lie. There's something special about your story because you are special. There's no person like you. There's no person that has the feelings that you have about the situations that you've been through. And so there's people around this world that need to hear your story. Your story matters. It is powerful. I got to calm down. I'm sorry.
I love it.
Because there's two things I do in my speaking programs. Number one, it's teach you the speaking industry, but the other part is building up the messenger. Because if you don't have that internal fortitude, the moment that you send out a pitch and nobody responds, you're going to quit.
Yeah.
You have to know your message matters, because it does.
Right. I love it. And what kind of shifts have you had to make since the pandemic for speaking? And are you still getting paid speaking gigs, even though everything's virtual and online these days?
Absolutely. So again, I think a little differently because I'm not all caught up in keynote, because there's times where I've made more from a breakout session than a keynote session. So my mind isn't like, the world really hasn't shifted. It just, you got to find a different way to do what you've done. And so I've already had courses, which is great because that's what they taught me in Pete's program, is that, no one life has changed by a keynote, which I disagree a little bit. But the point is that you make real transformation when people work with you beyond the stage, through your courses, through your program, whatever. And so I already had that created. So when I'm on a podcast, I can offer a course, 7 days to your landing your first client, or how to discover your highest purpose, or how to break the fear of speaking, which people are thinking about. So that was a monetization strategy. So as soon as the pandemic hit last year, I immediately called David Meltzer, who was one of my mentors, and I said, I need to do a podcast tour, because I know he knows some top podcasters. So I went on podcast. I was doing like 3 podcasts a day. It was funny is that was last April, and I'm still having episodes come out now that I recorded last April, because some of these larger shows are, they're so far ahead. And so I did that, and that was a way to monetize. Yes, it took the world some time to figure it out, but virtual speaking, I believe, is a huge opportunity. People are like, well, no one's hiring because there's no in-person events. And I'm like, no, there's hybrid events, there's virtual events. People are still hiring. In fact, sometimes it's easier because you don't have to travel. You don't have to get in a hotel. You don't have to get a rental car. You don't have to stay in the conference because you feel bad for just going in and going out. So it is easier to be a paid speaker now than it was before.
But you're finding the paid opportunities are not are more like sell from the stage opportunities, or is it more of like being paid to come on in the stage?
Yeah, so mine is both, but for the person started out, it's probably going to be self from stage. It's just, I have the fortune, like, so everyone that
You already had the
canceled,
connections. Yeah.
they just basically
Yeah.
pivoted to a virtual model this year. So
Yeah.
they still honored my keynote fees.
Yeah. Which
And
is
then,
great.
once you have a standard in the industry, it's kind of like they know that this is not, because people are not just paying for your story. They're actually paying for the problem that you solve, which is one of the
Right.
things that I always tell speakers is, everyone has a great story. Everyone has like, an amazing story, but people don't buy stories. They buy solutions to problems. So you have to position your story in a way that it's a solution to a problem and put a quantitative value on it.
Right.
What is that worth for an organization or an audience to learn what so that they can avoid those problems, avoid those loss of revenue? And that's how you become paid speakers. So yeah, I digress. I'm sorry. I don't know if that answered your question, but
totally does answer. Yeah, it answers my question. And any last words we have as we're rounding up to our time with you? I know you've got so much going on. We don't want to keep you too long, and you have 3 daughters waiting for you on the other side of this call. So
I'm trying to avoid them. I'm just kidding. No, I love my daughters.
Yeah. What are some last bit of advice for our maybe podcasters, influencers, entrepreneurs that are looking to gain more of a following, start doing some more speaking, or even start a podcast?
There's never a perfect time. If you wait till tomorrow, tomorrow will never come. Clarity comes in doing, not in standing still. You are more powerful than you think. Your story matters more than you give yourself credit for. What comes natural to you might not come natural to others. What you call foundational, other people will consider revelational. Don't compare yourself to other people and where they're at. Just be you, because there's no such thing as imposter syndrome when there's only one you.
Amazing. I love that so much. That's so great. And Darryll, where else can people reach out to you, work with you, find out more about your show?
Yeah, they can go to the show notes because it's all there. Google me. I'm Googleable. And just, hit me up, DarryllStinson.com, or on Instagram at Stinson Speaks.
Okay, awesome. Thanks so much, Darryll, for being with us today. It's been so great having you, and just so many great nuggets in that conversation. And like Darryll said, you guys, there's only one of you, and there's no better time than now. So get your voice going, turn it on, turn up the volume, and start spreading your message. Right?
That's right.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Darryll, for being with us today. Amplify You family. Go out there, follow Darryll, go check out his show, give him a nice review, tell him how much you loved hearing him on our show. And until next time, go out there and use your voice and share your message with the world. Mm-hmm.